plot is a little bit barren. Things kind of just progress to the next thing, and there's not a lot of breadcrumbing in between. There is a book of it. I've never really read it myself, and this is animated, so I wonder if some of that's chopped out, some of it's just poor structuring.
How's the book structured? Like, is the book smaller in scope? Is it grander in scope?
Yeah, is it like never-ending story where we're just missing some stuff that could have been filled in, but we just didn't have time to shoot it or animate it? I'm not sure, either or.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Narratives and Nonsense. I am Jordan, Gillidan for the win. This is
It's the boy, it's the guy, it's the master of the five strings, eating all your onion rings with absolutely no rings.
I actually
Big
have
Connor.
onion rings this time. Look, there they are. Like I went and got them.
Because I haven't got over it.
Yeah, onion rings are great. We are friends talking about random and recent stories, newsworthy or otherwise. Connor, how's your last week been?
You know, as always, been at the grindstone, hitting it up at work. It's getting a little slow, like call-wise. So we've been doing lots like reorganizing and stuff at our shop and doing man stuff, use your drills and stuff, building shelves. Just really,
So a lot of
getting into
organizing,
it.
both at work and at home.
Of course. Yeah, and I don't, as it's slowing down, I'm starting to get everything cleaned out of this place, so that'll be good.
For the eventual
Downsizing, getting rid of
transition.
crap.
He will
Yeah.
return to us here in the States one day. I await for such a time. Um, Sweet. This last week, God, I got taken out a couple days. So on Tuesday, I got my booster shot for COVID, and my Wednesday and Thursday, I had off work. I just took sick days because I was like full on, like, it was like the second dose for me was chills, aches. Like my arm's still a little bit sore, just a little bit. Like today, it's hardly anything. But I was properly taken out. So besides like resting and sleeping, I did a little bit more video game stuff. I finished Dragon Age Awakening. That's like the DLC for the video game. I liked the DLC story better than the main story. That was interesting. And then outside of that, on Wednesday, we got the Ultima weapon in Kingdom Hearts 1. So we are approaching the end of the game. We need to beat Sephiroth. On my day off, I like spent a little bit of time just like doing some last minute cleanup stuff. I got like everything that's needed for like doing a 100% run, try to unlock secret movie type things for John's benefit. And yeah, we need to beat Sephiroth and then beat the game, and then we'll be on to Chain of Memories or re Chain of Memories because it's the remastered version that will be right around the corner. I'm excited. And we
Ugh.
on the Halo front, we started Halo 3, and that's been pretty good so far. It's a big improvement visually, like
Oh,
between
jeez.
between Halo 1 and 2, for the classic stuff and Halo 3. Like whoa. Um, but yeah, outside of that, weather's been really nice here. Supposedly it's going to be
Yeah.
snowing today or tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. Um, but that's where we're at. Colorado's doing it's like it's gonna snow. Now it's nice. Now it's not. Now it's
Yeah.
raining. Now it's frosted. Now it's okay. Now it's slush. And it like the bounce back
Yeah.
and forth. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, same thing up there.
Yep. We've been thawing pretty well. I don't know if we have too much snow in the coming times, but who knows? You're not out of her. Even in April, you're not really out of it yet. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's nice for work. We were outside with the doors open. I was walking around in my t-shirt a couple of days, like,
Okay.
so that's
Yeah.
been tight. Yeah.
So some of that warmer weather. Well, going from
Yeah.
that.
Single digits, baby.
Woo! So going from that, boy, I mean, there's just all sorts of fun, good news stuff things. Um, in terms of good news stuff, some uplifting things. People here in the U.S. have started to agree on some things. And when I say that, I mean, there was a recent poll where 80% of the poll, regardless of your political affiliation, were voting or were in favor of a windfall tax on oil. So the idea is that when the war with Russia and the Ukraine started, gas prices like skyrocketed along with the oil price, like cost per barrel. Well, the oil price per barrel dropped since things have kind of like stabilized a little bit. We're not like, oh my God. But gas prices have not followed in suit. And so the idea of the windfall tax would be basically taxing the after profit amount, and then whatever that amount that gets taxed is, that gets basically just thrown back at the American public. Um, I I do think ultimately that'll be a good thing if it's used in that way, but I am a little bit worried that it might just mean that they just make the prices higher, but
Yeah.
it depends on the execution. Because if it's like a, hey, whatever this set amount is of your profit, if it's a percentage thing, it's like, okay, cool, we're all just gonna make it a really big amount of dollars and then pocket whatever that smaller leftover amount difference is. I don't know. Ultimately, I think if they execute it well, where it's more like a flat rate thing, like you get to pocket as the company, gas company, oil company, whatever, if you get to pocket the, like, I don't know, 50 cents more than what it is to make the gas per barrel thing, as opposed to like some percentage, in which case they just ramp the number up and say, oh yeah, we're getting the same profit, it's just a really big percentage now. That's the part where I'm like, all right, let's hope they don't abuse it and they do it well enough that it's not subject to abuse.
Oh, sure. Totally.
Yeah, so anyway, that's something that the US has been agreeing on. Likewise, here we've been doing some daylight savings things. It's been common knowledge for a very long time here in the States, and daylight savings was kind of like put in as like a by state choice thing. Some states do it, some states don't, but more as time has gone along, people have been like, guys, daylight savings sucks, and the Senate agreed. So the US Senate unanimously across both spectrums said, no, daylight savings is terrible, let's get rid of it. With this new bill, and they've thrown it at the House of Representatives. If that goes through in the House as well, then that means that we might not have daylight savings anymore come 2023.
Which would be great, considering I didn't
Yeah.
know this. Apparently, it really screws with your circadian rhythm and like
Yeah.
really mess your head up, which I didn't know. I just don't like it. It's annoying, but
Yeah, like it, and some of it is some people believe it helps contribute to like seasonal depression type stuff, because suddenly light, like it is darker versus brighter during the day and that kind of thing, depending on when. And then some people also on the few people that argue for daylight savings, there is an argument that it helps with like energy cost preservation. That's just been proven not true, because we don't care. Basically is what, like, whatever it is negligible, because we're like crashing into cars in the morning. And then the other argument is that with daylight savings, it's nicer for businesses, and that's something where it's I don't know how much backing up there is for that, but there's supposedly a counter argument there. Otherwise, I mean, everybody has been like, dude, daylight savings is the worst. And I want to point out that this came through after the spring we lose an hour. So that they lost an hour, went into work and went, guys, seriously, can we get rid of this? This sucks.
sucks.
So
yeah,
that'll be fun. Imagine like
narratives and nonsense firmly on the daylight savings train.
Yeah, just wait till you tell your kids, oh man, you should have seen in spring we lost an hour, in fall we gained one, it was crazy. And then the grandkid just looks at you and goes, what the hell happened between like the 50s and the early 2020s? What?
Well, it's like, why would you? I just was always like, why did you do this in the first place? But
no, it's got a weird history, because it goes back as far as like I think it's 1918 it was there, and then it was gone, and then 1942, and then after 42 it became like like a national thing in around the 50s 60s time frame, and then it's just like stuck around for some reason. So yeah, we might no longer have daylight savings. Woo! Um, outside of that, for green news, some other things that were kind of interesting and fascinating. So we've been talking about how like the Russia-Ukraine war has affected the push for like renewable stuff. That's been pretty consistent as people are like, we got to get off gas. Russia has gas, and that's how they get their money. Everyone panicking in terms of like national security and
Yeah,
stuff.
especially the EU, like all the
Yeah.
places around it.
Oh yeah,
Which,
especially
of course,
right
Russia's a
next
huge
door.
country, so that's a lot.
Yeah, and with the EU, I
Most of
mean,
Europe.
being right next door, it's something where like I don't remember what it was. I think the number is like 80% of German gas is from Russia or something like that. I mean, it's some big numbers. Well, some some retrospectives have kind of been popping about how uh during the pandemic, we also had a big push for renewable stuff because of two things. One is the kind of going to how like everyone's pro having some kind of a windfall tax on oil. That I kind of see as a win for green energy because it means oil just becomes less profitable. Um,
Yeah,
but
so might try to diversify a
similarly,
little more.
yeah, similarly for like the general public, it's a little bit of a pushback about the volatility of gas and oil prices,
Well,
which yeah,
it's like I understand there's a war, there's things going on, so I can jack it up, but like it seems like that's just accepted now. Rather, it's like, in any given situation, that may not always be the truth, like depending on like what we have for oil and things like that. So I think
yeah,
part of it is just like this established thing is like, oh, there's a war on, gas prices go up. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Really though? Like,
yeah.
do ours need to, like,
Well, that's something
wait a minute.
where going back to the oil barrel cost, it spiked and then it came back down, but the gas
It's
price
yeah, like
didn't join in that
exactly.
endeavor.
Everyone's like,
So yeah, so
I don't know.
partially like going piggybacking off of that idea, um, because of the pandemic and the volatility of fossil fuel supply chains and the availability of like continuing to supply this, whether it's cheap, whether it's expensive, like the price of the
We gotta
fossil
move
fuel is
it.
already volatile, but because the supply chain had an issue, because of everything being shut down for a minute, that actually has shown to have had a lot of push in legislature for a bunch of different countries where they're now pushing to get more renewable stuff during the
Especially
pandemic,
like
much
domestically, I
less,
imagine.
yeah,
So
much
they can just
less
get it
like,
right there.
oh yeah, so that's something where like the strive for like wind and solar, even
Yeah,
like
because
green hydrogen, that's something that it has been shown that during the start of the pandemic into 2020 leading into 2021, that kind of stuff, we started making those strides as well. So in addition to all of the more recent stuff with like EU's bigger pushback with the Russia Ukraine war and how we've started leasing off land for wind development, we've been making that stride since the pandemic started, and that I thought was interesting because given that everyone slowed down and started working remote, I would have thought that fossil fuels would have felt uh less what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like
less like necessary or something.
um yeah, I felt like it would have been
Like we
less in
wouldn't need them as
demand,
much.
so we wouldn't care because people aren't commuting in it, so we could use it for just power generally speaking. That's kind of the thought process that I had with when the pandemic first hit and everyone stopped commuting, started working remote. And it seems like it's more along the same chain as like not being able to get your shirt 4 days instead of 2 weeks difference.
Yeah,
It's running into those
absolutely.
problems as well, which I wasn't really expecting. Uh,
Yeah, I definitely never thought about that part of it, but
right?
it makes sense.
Yeah. So
Logistics are kind of key.
oh yeah, so that was pretty interesting. Um, continuing on like the push for green stuff, um, Starbucks is iconic for its cups. I mean, goodness, you've got Starbucks coffee cups literally left, right, and center. I'd almost argue that it's kind of like a symbol for something that is disposable. Like you just have a
Oh
tossed
yeah.
coffee cup.
Well,
Um,
and they're also like it's like a cultural icon.
A little bit, yeah.
Like
Like
just the Starbucks cup, like people
it's
know that
everywhere.
shit.
Yeah, you recognize it
It's in
anywhere
a
you go.
lot of movies and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going as far back as like Shrek 2, they had a reference to
Exactly. Yeah.
Starbucks, and that's
Literally.
older. Yeah. Well, Starbucks is apparently looking to toss their tossable cups, because they are starting to work in ideas for how to encourage reusing cups during the pandemic. You know, at the very start, they said, "Hey, don't bring your reusable stuff. We don't want to get anybody
Yeah.
sick."
We don't get
Well,
infected.
they're turning heel now. They're trying to switch back to the green side of it, and in addition to trying to toss their stuff less and encourage people to use like mugs and stuff more, they're starting to experiment with uh, a like deposit program where you basically pay a deposit on a Starbucks cup, and if you bring that cup back, you get your deposit back on the cup. So
Oh, okay. It's almost
yeah,
like with grocery carts at some places. You can stick like a
yeah, like
coin
you put
in
a coin in and
and
you
you
got to
get it
use
back
it.
for putting it back.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's something
That's
that,
a good idea.
yeah, I'm interested to see how that carries out, if people are on board for it, if it gets pushed back.
I
As
feel
one
like
that
I
doesn't,
see a lot
yeah,
of reusable mugs at most coffee places. Not lately, not like during COVID, really, but
yeah,
I
I
always
mean,
I feel like I
there's
see it quite
always
often.
the cups available, but I don't know how
Yeah.
people will feel
Sorry, I should
about
say
the,
people with the cups.
yeah, I don't know how people will feel about the deposit idea if they completely got rid of their disposable stuff and went fully for the deposit route. But to be fair, I don't drink coffee, much less
Yeah.
Starbucks, and that's something where it's like, well, you're already spending like, $8 or $9 for a coffee.
Yeah.
Do you actually care that it's $1 that's refundable or not? I don't know. I don't. To me, I just see it as another reason that you make coffee at home if you even drink coffee, which I do not. So I could see there being some pushback on it, mainly because people are lazy. Not literally,
But
but
yeah,
it is
I don't know.
convenience.
I like having my own cup.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like I
fair
have my
too.
Slurpee cup and my coffee and my cup for my tea that I bring
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, you've got your mug. This is your mug. You use your
Yeah,
mug, or if you have like your go-to thermos, that kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
for my
that's very
it's
fair.
huge.
Um,
Yeah.
outside
A
of
funny thing
that,
in Canada, a lot of
oh,
places will just give you like a coffee cup. Like if you're like staying, just give
oh,
you like a coffee cup. Like A and
just like, here you
W,
go.
they just have like coffee mugs if you're just chilling out.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
That's kind of fun.
That's kind of their ways.
Like if you're eating in the restaurant, they give you a
Yep.
mug as opposed
Yeah.
to,
And they'll give you like hard plates and bowls. Like you can order a bowl of chili and it comes in an actual bowl.
dude, that's
They give you a
great.
spoon.
That's something where you got to know if you're going to be eating in or not, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
That is yeah. Like you only get that option if you're staying.
yeah. No, that's really cool. I want to see that here. We do not have that
It's just nice
at
because if you
all.
are sitting down, it's like boom, you just wash her out.
Yep, yep. Outside of that, I know the EU, as it continues to do so, it's pushing for more sustainable things. One of the things that it's been talking about is more sustainable batteries, and there's a couple of ways that it's
Ugh.
going about it. So naturally, it's something where trying to find more reusable batteries or ways to reuse batteries, ways to better effectively make and recycle them, of course. But the part that I
Just
thought was
make them better in
really,
general
yeah, but
so
the
they
part
last
that,
longer.
yeah, and part of their approach that I think is really interesting is they acknowledge that, like, okay, you have your iPad, you have your smartphone, and the battery goes kaput on it. You basically just end up tossing the whole thing and getting a brand new one because, like, right to repair can kind of be a pain in the ass, which
I can't
really
even
sucks.
pop the battery out of my phone.
Nope.
I'd need to go get a heat gun if I
Yep.
wanted to do that,
Yeah.
which is so
So
stupid because like it's so annoying
you
to
used
hard
to be able to
reset.
just switch out the battery if you
Yeah.
needed to, and you could keep the rest of the phone intact.
Well, even if
Um,
my phone freezes, like the hard reset thing doesn't always work with mine for some reason. So it's like, fuck, what do I
yeah,
do?
yeah. So that's something where they acknowledge that if the battery goes, the phone goes, essentially. And to better inform people, and I think by
Excuse
proxy,
me.
oh my, uh, to better inform people and to, by proxy, encourage better development of how we do and use batteries, they're pushing for more information about batteries being like public facing when you go to get the thing. So you have a more informed consumer that looks at the battery and goes, okay, this has a shelf life of like 3 to 4 years. So if I buy this phone, it should be good for 3 to 4 years because the battery is said to last that long. And here's how you use it and that kind of stuff. And I think that is like, yeah, you can always push for, make a better battery, make it more efficient, stuff like that. But providing it to the customer, like having that be written
like
into
forward.
law,
That's information. Yeah.
that's something where it's like, oh, now it's going to be like
Yeah, it's like
subject to
consumer
all the
protection
reviews.
now,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Like it's a precedent, which is great.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And frankly,
Absolutely.
I hope that right to repair comes back into play because
forever. Seriously. I'm so happy the John Deere strikes went well too.
Yeah, yeah.
Big anti right to repair people. They're paying their employees a lot more, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Also, people, rechargeable batteries, rechargeable AA's, buy them. Yes, they will eventually go out, but God, you will save so much money.
Yeah.
It is my secret religion no one cares about. Rechargeable batteries, I promise.
They're nice.
As a kid, they used to play on a Game Boy Advance. Let me tell you.
Oh God. that old thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The old Game Boy Advance with like the little light attachment at the top too.
Yeah,
that was
a little worm light.
That shows how old we are. So outside of that, another thing that's nice for, I would say, the general public type thing, this is news for you up in Canada. British Columbia has become the first province to tie minimum wage with inflation, which
I didn't know wasn't a thing.
Yeah, a lot of places.
Like,
I mean, shoot, I'm in the U.S. The U.S. definitely does not do that.
I genuinely did not know that until this day. I just figured it went with inflation. Like that was part of it.
No, minimum wage for the most part, and this is something that I think a lot of people have been continuing to argue, like, hey, tie it to inflation so that your static number is not static for 20 years ago and we have to make a new bill every time. Make it flexible with the times. That's something that thankfully has been put into place for British Columbia. Now let's see if that carries over for more places, because I do think that is ultimately a good thing, where you just have it so that you're, whatever your minimum is, you can argue whether it should be a higher minimum or a lower minimum. At the very least, it should ride the flow of inflation.
Account for inflation. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then the last thing, as far as like, I would say public interest type stuff things go, I don't know how to phrase that. Over in Tokyo, Japan has been a very, like, it's a very strict, very traditional type of mindset, very conservative, with its values and how
especially
you conduct
with,
yourself.
Students.
Yes, and
highly regulated.
Yep, and in Tokyo, apparently it's now coming around that before, for like school dress codes, it was something where everybody had to like have their hair dyed black. I mean, it would go from the full like shirt and pants / skirts all the way down to your underwear. Like you had to have a certain type of underwear where it's not a certain pattern or coloration or what have you. Now it's starting to lax up on those rules. So in addition to like just generally speaking, freeing it up so that any hair color is fine and not like going as far as to check your underwear. Now that that's being pushed in place, there's also like some other discussions about like, okay, we're going to have whatever gendered clothing. So if you wanted to have like a shirt or shirt and slacks as opposed to a skirt or something like that, that's something else that started to catch a little bit of a push over in Japan, but more specifically with Tokyo, like the whole hair and underwear thing. I remember my sisters pushing hard for what like dress code we did have in our high school. It was one of those things where it's like, if it goes past like, it was either the middle finger or the thumb, I don't remember, if your pants don't go past that, you have to change your pants. And so my I don't remember if it was one or both of them, would go into school with shorts that were shorter than that requirement, and would have to at the beginning of the day just go down to the office, get told on, like, they go through the whole 9 yards of, all right, well, I'm gonna have to change my pants, here's my change of pants, switch it into like leggings, which I feel like defeats some of the purpose of the pants rule thing anyway, because it's like, okay, cool, now you're not
activated my trap card.
Yeah, you're not wearing shorts, but it's it's perfectly form fitting. Like,
Yeah.
what was the goal here?
And the fashion industry countered with leggings.
Yeah, yeah.
What a maneuver!
It really is something that as silly as that. I feel like that's something where I could only imagine what kind of like smaller protests there would have been
seriously.
in Japan. Which, to be fair, I feel like there is a different culture out in Japan, but
well, and in an interesting
rebellious
way,
teens are rebellious teens.
Of course. Well, in Japan, they have a huge history of student protests, usually college age, but like that is a time-honored tradition in Japan to some extent.
Yep.
Like they rock that hard.
So
they got no problem going out there. But yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's something where you see like a bigger kind of more, I would say, institutional change happening in Tokyo. Similarly, we're jumping back here to the States. On the subject of institutional changes, we've got
Jordan buys everybody a fudge brownie day.
Oh no.
No,
I can't afford fudge brownies. You get chocolate chip brownies. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, so back here in Denver, you know how in 2020 there was the whole defund the police movement, all of the different rioting and whatnot. In Denver, they introduced something called the STAR program, and what it is it's essentially. This sounds really weird. What it is it's essentially
Resident Evil.
Star. So the STAR program here, it's basically like a replacement for police in certain situations. So low level risk situations that pop up, they would send a STAR team, which is essentially a mental health team. And it was something that started off with only a couple of vans and a number of volunteers. They responded to, up to the time of this article, it said something like 2,200 different cases. And it's been tremendously successful. In all 2,200 responses, they never once called the police for like a high risk issue, backup. Security thing, backup. Yeah, they needed bigger reinforcement. Every single time they were able to handle it and handle it cleanly, effectively. And in, I believe the number was like 75% of the cases, it usually involves somebody that had either some form of like major depression or schizophrenia or stuff like that, where there was some kind of mental health problem that could be more directly addressed rather than escalating it to law enforcement.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point where the Denver police chief has actually said that this is the future of law enforcement. And now you have the first place to replicate it is right next door to Denver out in Aurora. They've started to do their own version of that, but you now have like Fort Collins and Colorado Springs and so on and so forth. The article said that it's increased fivefold. So now you're getting a lot of like what I think was the real objective of what like the whole defund, refund the police idea was, and that was rework it so that you're not sending cops for mental health situations.
You're sending jacks of all trades into a specialist's job
field,
kind of.
Yeah,
like it's just they don't have that training, and they already answer so many calls. Like it's probably nice.
Yeah, it's something where you can allow them to be a little bit more specialized with like, hey, we'll take care of it. At this point, to me, the bigger thing is just making sure that we are sending the right people for the right task.
Totally.
And the fact that they do
and that they're safe.
Yeah, and the fact that they do have that accessibility, I would say, to get reinforcement if need be. I think that's something that really speaks to kind of the cooperation and the fact that Denver police chief is
we're all trying to make this work.
Hey, this is kicking butt. I think it's a big relief for them and making sure that, you know, people are being taken care of accordingly. So that was
take
huge news.
A little weight off their backs. I'm happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You guys got a lot going on.
And then naturally, there's a war in Russia and the Ukraine. So, on the brighter side of news and whatnot, One thing that I thought was funny is there's supposedly like 300,000 hackers that are now fighting Russia. The one person that
That's
I
a
saw in the
war.
article,
That's a war.
yeah,
Holy.
the thing that I thought was really funny is all of the hackers declined to use their real name, of course, and then
What?
what? And one of them was apparently Swiss, and literally their comment was, "This is just the right thing to do," and I went. I was just like the digital vigilantism basically
Lawful neutral, my
happening.
man.
Oh man. So, uh, or would it be neutral good? I guess because it's technically not lawful.
No. So here's the trick though with
Yeah.
lawful neutral. It's lawful neutral. So that neutrality brings in a bit of a different thing. So it's more of a personal law or code is what I look at it as. But that's alignment for you.
Yeah, alignment is
Like,
very.
Yeah.
How do you determine your alignment?
Yeah.
Good old D&D reference. Anyway,
Usually I talk to my DM first and we just agree on something and we go, okay, cool.
yeah. Outside of that, Ukraine has now started connecting to the European power grid. Before it's connected to the Russian power grid,
Nice.
and even though they didn't really
Oof.
trade electricity all that much, it was still connected and reliant on it. Now that it's connected to the European power grid, it is now connected to what is the largest power system in the world. Like Europe just
Literally.
has it,
Yeah.
and that's something where they were already like making that transition, but as this started going down, they're like, okay, push it out, push it out, push it out, push it out.
Expedite the process.
Get it up. That's something that now will provide a little bit of stability over there with everything that's going on.
I wonder what kind of a process that was. Like, that's gotta
I don't
be
know. It really
an
was
undertaking.
like what 39. I think the number was like 39 countries were kind of working on this this effort. Yeah,
Wow.
a big
Good on
big
it for all the
task.
laborers and stuff. That had to be a good job.
Oh yeah. It
Be
was
a fun
something
one.
that was planned out for like months,
Oh,
if
yeah.
not years, in the making
No,
and
just to
to
like
be done.
partake in.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that, like, I put up a garage door every day, and sure, it's nice here or there, but like, that's like, you really say
That
you
is
did
we're
something
moving
that day.
mountains thing. Yep.
Yeah, literally.
Outside of that, Arnold Schwarzenegger has
The
popped up in
man.
the news. The myth, the legend. So he went viral, releasing a video that, funnily enough, he actually references and talks about just after the January 6th Capitol riot that happened for 2021, just after the election. And with it, he calls out to kind of the heart of the Russian people. I would say very similarly to how he kind of called out, like, hey, Americans, like, this is not how we do business type of thing. And with the video, he talks about how, like, growing up, he saw a Russian bodybuilder that literally set the record for the most weight lifted above his head. And, like, he got a poster and hung it in his bedroom, and his German dad was like, take that shit down. Like, I fought in World War II. They suck. Like, and it was something that he protested against. His dad lived with a lot of the post-war stress and guilt, and kind of explaining a lot of the personal connections he has to how Russia is and how war has affected him, kind of just in his life. And he kind of carries that forward and says, like, hey, Russia, like, I love you guys. You guys are great. Russians as a people have an incredible strength and warmth to their hearts and to their minds and whatnot. And those that are protesting against this war, you're kicking butt. But we're going to talk one-on-one. Like, we need to spread some truth here. This is something where practically every country on the planet, with the exception of like 4 or 5, said that Russia is the aggressor in this endeavor. This is not Ukraine is Nazified. It has a Jewish president whose father lost 3 brothers in World War II to Nazis. Like, this is not a denazification of the Ukraine, like Russia says. It's not something where Ukraine has been pushing or causing trouble. This is something where it's on Russia's terms, and he calls out Putin directly, and he's like, hey, you have the power to start this war. You have the power to end this war. Like, let's cut this down. Naturally, it went viral. But it's not just viral here, it's viral there too for whomever, wherever they can get access to that information, because Russia's trying to crack down on
So
social media accounts and
Schwarzenegger
whatnot.
can't go to Russia anymore, I'm gonna assume.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, what's funny with that is he is one of like the few celebrities that the English and Russian speaking official state Twitter accounts, like the country's Twitters, actually follows. Like, that's one of those things where it's like, interesting that you've got basically the literal Kremlin following Arnold, and he puts that out.
Hey,
So we'll see how far that gets and what it gets through. Yeah, no, it's pretty awesome.
But I liked it because it wasn't like meant derogatorily, or
No.
it wasn't like
No,
just
no,
being
no,
like
no.
Russians are stupid. I really enjoy, like, it's a
No,
very classy way to go about that.
absolutely. He somebody was saying in response to the thread talking about this, that he's got a good way of really connecting to the people in some other way that I don't think there's a lot of celebrities that manage to do that. And is that part of just the fact that he's been in, show business and bodybuilding that long? Is it a matter of him having gotten into governance? Yeah,
just as himself. Like, he's always been that way.
Yeah, that's something
to
where
a certain
it's
extent.
Yeah, I think it's impressive just how eloquently put and how direct it is, without
how
being
bold,
insultive.
like,
yeah.
You're not just saying that to anybody. Like, that's Putin, man. Like,
yeah. So that was one thing that was just awesome. And then the last like little bit of uplifting news. This is where, like, even smaller bits of honoring and support are kind of jumping in here and there. In one of the zoos out in the Czech Republic, apparently there was a newborn, endangered rhino, and they named it Kiev in honor of the city and in support of Ukraine. So that's just a nice like final heartwarming tidbit, just to kind of close off our update as far as what's going on with Ukraine stuff, because we do want to focus on the more uplifting side of it and pointing out the positivity and where we can.
Absolutely.
Following that, we do have a bunch of different holidays. So
today.
Wow, I got a whole whiteboard of stuff.
Sorry. Bunk got the so we don't get caught by that.
We just gotta avoid that copyright strike. For today, for the holidays, we have International Forest Day. Nice. We have I believe it's World Down Syndrome Day. So both of those for awareness. We have Common Courtesy Day, like, be nice to other people, open doors for others, say please and thank you.
One kind act a day at least.
Yeah, it'll make your heart better.
There's the gauntlet.
Absolutely. And then Poetry Day, and then there's the two that we want to talk about, one more nonsensical, one less so. We have Puppetry Day. So if you want to dive into that, puppetry's fun and cool.
I love it because, like, it's one of those multifaceted art where the craftsmanship of the puppet is like a beautiful art, and then the actual manipulation of use of it is like a totally separate thing.
You could be very puppet making wouldn't fall in line with like sculpting, but I would say it's like tangentially related to that, because you are manipulating a form. It just depends on what you're using for it. Not every sculptor is using clay or like pottery making skills or marble or something like that. You might be using some other materials. Like, there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into making a puppet, which, going into stuff like, goodness, like, I mean, Sesame Street is just up there, but Jim Henson's works with like Dark Crystal, where you really push the boundaries of like, Jesus, this entire like monstrosity of a bird creature for the Skeksis in Dark Crystal, that artistry is just incredibly impressive. But then you also get the people that perform the puppets as well. Like,
of course, like,
holy crap. I know you wanted to mention like Jeff Dunham as one example, just for a more recent one.
Totally. Well, and he has so many different mediums. He's got his soft puppets like
Yep.
Peanut. He 3D prints a lot of his stuff as well. Like,
Yeah, he
like it with modern technologies, it's got to be awesome.
oh, absolutely. I know uh before the pandemic for Christmas, my mom got me and her tickets to go see Jeff Dunham live here in Denver. Pandemic happens. We were going to go see it in April. Shutdowns happened in March. Oh no. And then they pushed it to August. And then after August, they pushed it to like November. And then after November, they pushed it to the following year. And so it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. We finally got to see it just this last year. And it was fantastic. It was such a good show. But he also introduced this new character named. The idea is that it's essentially like always on their phone, texter, zoomer type of character. And they try to come, he put it online like, what should the name of this character be? And they went, Earl, URL, genius. Like, it's so good. Oh my God.
They must have liked the Batman a lot.
Am I right? For all you Batman people. So yeah, that was something that was just hilarious. So there's Puppetry Day. And then the last one is Single Parent Day. And that's something that I can tangentially express appreciation for, because for the first chunk of my life, my mom was a single parent. Like, that's what it is. I ended up having who I call dad, being officially married when with her at when I was 7 is when they ended up getting married. So it was myself and then my little sister Brianna. But the first chunk of my life, I would, it was her, and then like my grandparents helped take care of me, and then sometimes I would be at like my Uncle Zach's for like the day or something while she's working and trying to like maintain the apartment that she's in and stuff like that. Quite literally like across the street from where I live now. Like, that was something that it's a lot of effort. And Single Parent Day, I mean, it really is just to show appreciation. While I haven't lived my whole life with a single parent, I do need to express that. So thank you, Mom. I love you. And like Dad, of course. But that's something that I just wanted to throw a little bit of, yeah.
Are we doing Poetry Day? Do we just?
No, we jumped over. It was right after Common Courtesy.
Well, you know what? I
want to touch back on the prose?
I got a little thing here.
Okay.
I heard a poem not that long ago, and it's real quick and short, so I just thought I'd read it here. I'm gonna read it first, and I'll tell you the name and stuff. But from my mother's sleep, I fell into state, and I hunched in its belly till my wet fur froze. 6 miles from Earth, loosed from its dream of life, I woke to a black flak and the nightmare fighters. When I died, they washed me out of the turret with a hose. That's The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner by Randall, Jarrell. And the ball turrets were on the B-17 bombers back during like World War II and stuff, and it was the highest casualty rate of anybody on those because they were in really compromising position. But I think it really underlines like that is the kind of messed up things that would happen in war. Like, these guys would literally get stuck and they'd have to land with no landing gears, and that's just the ball turret. He's just dead. No way to get him out.
Yeah. No, I know that
those are those weird little casualties you get.
Yeah, to carry off of that, those ball turrets, that's something that because I'm a Star Wars nerd, that directly influenced a lot of the kind of like design inspirations for like the
LAATs.
Yep. Yeah.
I love them.
No,
they're so cool. But
there's a lot of really good war. I don't know if I want to call it war reference or war allegory stuff. I don't know what the right term is, but there's a lot of inspiration that comes directly out of World War II, because I mean it's something that George Lucas was really fascinated with and really drawn in.
And if you take that and look at TIE fighters, TIE fighter pilots, they're very much treated as expendable. They're manipulated to think of themselves as disposable. They have no connection. They don't have a ship. They'd have a job.
No, absolutely.
Very much that same little thing.
Well, following that, we get to the meat of today. We're talking about The Last Unicorn, the 1982 animated cult classic. Yeah, this is the first time that I had been seeing that I had seen it, and you've watched it when you were
I
younger.
have I watched it so much when I was like from like the age of 3 probably. I wore that
Yeah.
VHS tape out.
Oh man. So, before we get into the plot, of course, I wanted to talk about the visuals, the music, and the theme. Visually, I really liked
Oh,
it. The backgrounds are gorgeous. They're very painterly, and I actually that was probably the thing I appreciated most out of
oh,
the like how
absolutely.
it was made is it
Yes.
just looks gorgeous for all of
It
those
just
backgrounds, and the fact that
it
you
makes
have
me
like
happy.
yeah, and the
I
fact that
just
you have these wider shots, kind of like stretched out, where you see the full landscape. That was something that I really appreciated with it, especially as somebody that cannot paint, because the Lord knows
oh
I've tried. Like back in middle school, I was just terrible at painting.
yeah. If you're
Um,
into like fantastical landscapes at all, just this is
mhm.
just amazing for them.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of piggybacking off of that, some of the visuals, this was made by uh some of the folks. It was made over and by a Tokyo animation studio, and a lot of those folks went on to form, core members of Studio Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli.
Yep.
And they
And
were actually also worked for Toei a little bit. So
yeah, and that's
a lot of
something
pedigree there.
that going through kind of the visual language of it, I saw really good mixes of like medieval stuff, and when I say that I mean the kind of painterly background stuff. It reminded me very much of like Sleeping Beauty, which I think did a very good
I
job
also
of
think
it.
outfits and clothing wise, they're really good with the
Yep.
characters, like their looks. That was
Yeah,
all
and
very
that was something that
fit well.
it drew really well from some of that older kind of depictions of medieval
Kind
fantasy,
of
and then
the Arthurian-y kind of stuff.
yeah, and like the beasts that are used being very much medieval.
Something
Like
they would,
you
yeah,
outright get manticores, and naturally you have
all
unicorns. It's
kinds,
the last
of
unicorn. It
course.
talks about a unicorn, but you also get like the
There's no
like
unicorn.
weird strange looking harpy where it's like it has like human features on it, boobs. 3 boobs. It was weird. Like
Yeah.
that's plucked right out of like an old medieval
Oh,
textbook type
straight from
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then
Some tale people would tell to scare their kids.
yeah, and then on the flip side, you also had some bits that I noticed were what I would say are more on the Japanese style of animation and imagery. The two things that I really like plucked right out was the towards the end of the movie. There's the crests of the waves that very much reminds me of that very famous art piece. And then there's
Music.
also the character of Amathea. We're not going to talk about the spoilers involved with the character, but Amathea, like her design, while everything looks much more like these are the same guys that made the original like Hobbit, Lord of the Rings cartoon movies. While a lot of those designs look very similar to that, Amathea looks like she's straight out of an anime almost. Following that, going to the music. Eh.
Hello, Pot.
My response is meh. There's a charm to it. It was putting me to sleep. The
That was not because he was up until 2 last night.
No,
Don't let that.
because I wasn't. I was up to
No.
1. So
Ah!
the like the main theme is good. The singing throughout the rest of the movie, I was kind of meh about, and I think
This
it's
is the actual character singing for the record.
yes, and some of it
Or
is
I should say specifically.
yeah, and some of it's diegetic and some of it's not. It does like the like singing over like as they're traveling, and then some of it is like they're doing like a Beauty and the Beast-esque montage thing where it's the characters singing to about each other type thing.
If you had wanted to fast forward through those, I maybe wouldn't have been even really like that.
Yeah, and it's
yeah, they're not my favorite part. I can't lie.
yeah, and I think it's something where to me it it feels like it's both forced in or not decided on enough. Where,
It also
it's
kind
in
of
the
just
80s. It's
slows things a bit.
hmm
Like it makes these scenes kind of drag on a little longer than maybe they absolutely
yeah,
needed to.
yeah, and we'll talk about plot and pacing a little bit later, but it's something that to me it feels like it was put in kind of as a requirement, a response kind of thing to like some of the older Disney classes, because this is just before the Disney Renaissance, so it's not inspired by that, and this is that same weird time frame as like Black Cauldron, where there's not really music in it, animated medieval fairy tale type of story. I don't know. It felt weird. It felt a little bit forced. There is a little bit of a charm to it, but it does feel like it affects how
Yeah.
the movie flows. I will say though, outside of the vocal
There's
music,
also there's not a
mhm,
ton of that, luckily, throughout the whole thing.
yeah,
There are
um,
concentrated parts of it.
the part that I will say is commendable, the thing that I really did appreciate is the score part that wasn't, sung vocal instrumental stuff. The part where it is or I guess lyric lyric using music. The score I thought was really fantastic. So like right in the beginning, there's like this big swell of music where you've got like this whole like orchestra and choir part that just like raises, it feels like it elevates this movie into this more fantastical venture. That was something that I really really did enjoy, and I was really looking forward to more of it, and it only like it came into play a couple of times, and then you have the more,
Musical
I would
numbers.
say, 80s pop, not
Yeah.
pop, but uh
Like
mu-
holiday TV special singing parts.
yeah, yeah. Which the studio worked on like Frosty the Snowman, so it might be
Yeah.
because of that. I don't know where in that time frame it worked with them, but yeah, it was something where it felt a
I
little bit weird. Um, Now this is where we get into like some real plot spoiler type stuff. If you want to see The Last Unicorn without spoilers, uh, now is the time to get out of Dodge. Um, Now with the movie, uh, we've got two different things. We've got the themes of the movie, because I do think that this is a very thematically complicated movie. There's a lot of meaning, juicy details beyond like the surface level of what's going on, and then you have the plot, which I don't know how you want to tackle it first. I'll leave it to your decision.
well, like I would say, or sorry, like Jordan would say,
Mm,
or like Jordan was saying earlier, the plot is a little bit barren. Things kind of just progress to the next thing, and there's not a lot of breadcrumbing in between. Like at
mm,
first, it starts out pretty minor in its scale. It's just it's just the unicorn or Malthea, whatever you want to say, walking
yeah.
around doing her thing. But then she gets kind of captured by this carnival, essentially, and her goal is she's trying to find the other unicorns. That's supposed to be the driving force through it all. But like after she meets up with a guy at the carnival and they start to go like kind of getting to where they're needing to go next, it's not really talked about all that much. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of some gaps, and there is a book of it. I've never really read it myself, and this is animated, so I wonder if some of that's chopped out, some of it's just poor structuring. I don't know, but it
How's the
does get a
book
little
structured? Like,
wishy-washy.
is the
Yeah.
is the book
Like
smaller in scope? Is it grander in scope?
yeah, is it like never-ending story where we're just missing some stuff that could have been filled in, but we just didn't have
Yeah,
time to shoot it or animate it?
yeah,
I'm not
and
sure, either
that's
or.
yeah, and that's something that to me I was. Oof, it reminded me of the Disney's Alice in Wonderland, the cartoon 2D version that came out in the 50s, where it does feel like you're just kind of fumbling through. I will say this has the benefit of there is a goal. The main character has a goal.
Yeah,
Being the last
the
unicorn, she's like, I'm gonna go find the rest of them.
the movie doesn't really seem to care.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm doing my thing. Shut up. Like
Yeah,
it
it's
it
like
really is. It's like
It really
Okay.
is something where it's the last unicorn looking for the rest of the unicorns, and then they're, in the middle of a wood, where this wizard is like pseudo captured by traveling rogue bandits that have a lofty belief of Robin Hood, and you have like a carnival that manages to capture the unicorn. This is where the wizard like first helps free the unicorn before they both work together for the rest of the movie. Like it's something where it feels like there's not
Not a lot of connective tissue sometimes.
yeah, like if she had talked to the witches, the witch that has this traveling carnival of magical creatures, and it's really just her and the harpy that are actually magical.
Yeah.
Everything else is just
Everything else is
disguised
delusions.
by belief. Yeah.
It's not even belief. It's just her magic.
Yeah, if
The
that's
lady ones
something,
that can do it.
if that's something that the witch gave some kind of breadcrumby trail about, like, oh yeah, the unicorns were chased off by a large red bull, or like, oh yeah, we haven't seen unicorns since the king was put in charge, like just something like that, so that there's more of that connective tissue. I think that would have helped a little bit with the pacing and more about the connectivity of it, because it does feel very old school fantasy fairy tale, where it's like, oh yeah, and then this happens, and then like this happens, and then this happens. Why? It happens.
It's happening.
It's here because a fairy tale is a moral endeavor, and we're making a point here. How we connect A to B, don't worry about. We're making a point here.
The time frame is very. We're not really. It could have been 2 weeks or a month, a day.
Yeah, and that's something
Yeah.
that uh, for me, it's something where I very much think that there's typically a counterbalance system of, is it a character thing or is this a plot thing? If it's a character thing, it's focusing on the interaction or dialogue between people. If it's a plot thing, this is like, here's the grander story bit. Usually, those two things kind of balance from one another. And then what makes a story really good is when they interact. I do think that at the beginning and at the end, the character and the plot interact well together, but it feels like there's a lot of the character stuff that happens throughout, and the plot's just kind of like, it's there. So that's kind of how I feel about the grander plot of the movie. Now, getting into the themes, I think this would be more of where we're talking about like specific instances in the movie. My goodness, it does feel like it's really dense in a good way. It's something that, like, you're gonna be sitting there thinking about it.
It is a.
Um,
It is a. Oh, what is it? It is a deep hot spring that you can really dwell in and fucking like really get around.
yeah, this is something that you could really stew on for a good while, and I think there's a lot of different messages that you can take out of it.
Very open ended.
Very open ended. Now, with I think the first thing I would want to talk about is what essentially causes the plot to begin with, and I would say it's kind of the idea of like happiness and belief, where the witch's magic, like going back towards the beginning, the witch's magic works uh for the people that travel to see her, that traveling caravan of creatures, because they want it they want to believe in the creatures that she is like causing an illusion to present. So you have the manticore is actually just like a shabby old lion, and
toothless.
yeah, and it's become like a withered version of what it actually was as time has gone along. Same goes for like the world serpent, of Viking mythology. It's just a snake, and it's stuff like that where the majority of people are going there and seeing these creatures and being awestruck and whatnot,
and they want to believe.
Yeah, they want to believe it, and so that's what they end up seeing. going by what the witch kind of describes how her magic works, which I like that idea. I do think that magic in this is very much the very fairy tale-esque style of magic that we don't see as much anymore. Nowadays, it's like I cast a spell,
Very
it's very
definitive and
scientific. Yeah, there's
yeah.
rules to magic. Like if you're a Doctor Strange, if you have a sling ring, you can open a portal. If you don't, that's something that this world's magic is very spiritual, fairy tale leaning. Like, oh yeah, magic exists and does as it do, kind of thing. Um, that was something that with the uh with the witches group of people, they're looking to believe, and that's where they kind of get their happiness, is they're able to find it in these creatures. Like, wow, they're awestruck, that kind of thing. It gives them like a momentary like
It's
jolt of dopamine almost.
yeah.
Because
Seeing
they're,
is the believing
yeah,
to them.
yeah, and they're hunting for it. And then similarly with like the band of thieves that are kind of in the woods, like they're, I would argue that they're a miserable lot. And then they come across the wizard and they're talking about Robin Hood, and then they see like apparitions of Robin Hood that the wizard conjures up,
Yeah.
and they fucking like lose their shit. They're like, dude, Robin Hood, fuck yeah, let's go. And it almost got into a weird like philosophical thing of like, um are we real? Is Robin Hood real? What's more real than the other? Kind of thing. Which I was just like, excuse me. Are we really just throwing that in? Okay, cool. Because it kind of like plays off the idea that Robin Hood's more real because Robin Hood carries across time, whether he literally existed or not doesn't matter. The belief of Robin Hood and like the
Is it a
mythological
character? Was
value
it a
of
real
it,
person?
yeah, like that is what has carried forth more, as opposed to say like, you know, we're literally here, but are we really? Like, are we gonna have a bigger impact on like the grander scope of things? It's ironically it kind of feels slightly like Last Jedi's bit with Luke, where because you have Luke as the literal Last Jedi, and then you have the Last Unicorn, Last Jedi parallels. Oh no. You have Luke as the Last
Shut up.
Jedi, and then it's the idea of Luke is what outlives Luke and causes, you know, the broom kid slave boy pen stuff at the end to like really be inspired to like join the resistance. Is, oh my god, yeah, like he's super powered and I could be super powered too, broom, haha. Like like it's one of those things where uh expectation versus reality almost.
Yeah.
So them gaining something out of their beliefs and what's going on. Likewise, the king in the castle, you know, towards
King
the
Haggard,
tail
I
end.
believe.
Yeah, King Haggard, voiced by Christopher Lee, crushes it. I mean, it's Christopher Lee.
Amazing.
Mwah. His whole thing is he was miserable, and at some point he saw a unicorn, and that,
This is very much the man who has everything miserable.
yeah, absolutely. And it was something where he ends up seeking out every unicorn ever, because that is what gave him happiness. And so he kind of, I don't want to say genocide, but he rallies them all up using the very large Red Bull to basically magically coax them into going into the waters in the sea, where they're forever trapped, afraid of this Red Bull. And that's where they remain. He can go out onto his balcony and look out at the sea, and just gets this calming presence because he gets to see the unicorns that he has kind of trapped there. And
They're his.
yeah, and it's weird because if that's something where like his belief is nothing was making him happy with the exception of the unicorn, that's where he gets his happiness from, and that's his sole section of where he gets happiness from. And I feel like you can kind of get a little bit of a parallel between him and his son. So when you go to this castle, the castle is like completely abandoned. It's like him, his son, playing as the guards of his own castle, essentially. he has a wizard. He literally says outright, like, I got rid of everything that wasn't causing me happiness. Like, a wizard's not giving me happiness. To which the wizard that joins the unicorn, and we picked up Schmedrick and Molly.
He's from the carnival, and
Yep. He looks at the group, and he's like, a wizard can't grant me happiness. What good would a terrible wizard do? And Schmedrick's like, well, if your wizard's not causing you happiness, why do you keep him around? Haha. Point counterpoint.
The best bad idea you got.
Yeah, and so they end up like becoming. I don't. he becomes the mix of a wizard and a jester in the courtroom. Jester. Yeah, in the throne room itself. But you can draw some like weird parallels where his son, the prince, was it Lin?
Prince Lil, something like that.
Lil. Lil Prince. It's his rapper name. Anyway, the prince kind of, as this goes along, falls in love with the now unicorn,
transformed into
turned into
at one point
human.
Before this, they were chased by the Red Bull, and Schmendrick
literally goes,
did some magic,
do what it wants, and accidentally turns the unicorn into a human. Because it's not a unicorn, the Red Bull doesn't give a shit, just goes about its
turned her into an anime character. How could they?
Oh no. And we'll touch on that again in a moment. But the prince falls deeply in love with Amathea Lur. Prince Lur falls deeply in love with Amathea, and not knowing that it's a unicorn, it's interesting that you can maybe draw that parallel that like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like the father may have either fallen in love with a unicorn, and it's like a similar situation as this. There's a parallel there, or if
there's something about their bloodline that makes them into unicorns.
They just like them. They're unicorns. And in Lear's case, it's something where he tries everything. He has no idea how to rule Amathea, because he's gone out and slain beast after beast. He's conquered the dragon and comes back and presents its head, and she doesn't give two shits.
Being a unicorn.
Yeah,
because she's a unicorn. She's like, why'd you kill this?
Yeah, doesn't give two shits. And so it's literally, it gets to the point where he's just like, I want to compare it to like the you're talking to your barkeep type of situation, where he goes into the kitchen. Molly is doing the food preparation as the assigned cook. Yeah, cook, cleaning. He goes into the kitchen, and he's like sitting there just like, I don't know what to do. I've killed everything. What else is there to kill? I can't like prove that I'm a super awesome hero that is like worth I don't know how to prove that I care. Like, I'm doing all this stuff for her, but it's not coming through. And she's like, dude, try poetry. Basically.
Try talking to her.
Yeah, if you try it, just have a conversation. Just go about it that way.
I do think that's a fun thing with the Prince and the King. There uses kind of a lot of like criticisms on like traditional masculine things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, the classic, the hunter that's like, this is why I'm great now. Be with me, woman, for I can hunt and provide.
Yeah.
And
yeah. And
that was interesting.
And carrying from that, he's trying to do services on her behalf, or like in a way to try to like earn her affection, as more of like an exchange type of thing. Yeah. Before literally like just getting to know her, and they spend their time, and they have their music montage. He
never talks to her and says like, would you like if I killed the dragon? Would it be cool?
Yeah. Yeah. It became more of a like, hey, here's Dragon's Head, please love me. Like that was something where, going off of how the dad handles love and happiness, he's very possessive of the unicorns that he has rallied into the sea, and now they're trapped below the tide of his castle. And that's something that was very interesting, is kind of touching on how masculinity works, and what it is to like be in love, and how like the traditional view of masculinity, especially because this is a medieval fairy tale type of situation where you have the love and marriage and stuff like that is very much a transactional thing back in medieval times, and this seems to kind of criticize that a little bit in a good way. And that's something that was really interesting, is seeing how their happiness is kind of derived from that. And more importantly, one to skip a few, she, in turning into a human, she starts to kind of forget who she was, the fact that she was a unicorn looking for the other unicorns.
It's almost a bit like the dark side. Like she starts to lose track of like what her goal was.
Yeah, well,
in that weird way, like this weird amount of like forgetting.
Yeah, and caring from that kind of thing, she, being human, she knows what it is to be mortal, and being with the prince, she knows what it is to like fall in love. It becomes the Shakespearean, better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all type of thing. And she, being in love, she's like, you know what? Screw it. I don't need to find the other unicorns. I'm happy. Like I'm in love with this guy. This is awesome. I'm just gonna be a human. I am a human now. Like this is my deal. And the prince goes, bro, that's not how this works. Like,
but unicorns.
But you have a very important deal that you were here for. Like that he finds out that she's a unicorn and says, you've got to go save we got to save the rest of the unicorns. That's what we need to do. There is a quest to be had here.
Kind of when his classic heroism like pays off. He's like, no, you gotta, this is your this is your Death Star.
Yeah, this is your destiny. This is what's next. And what's really funny is going for like the older medieval storytelling into like Shakespeare's day. You have the wizard, jester, soothsayer, foreteller, whatever type of character that knows the meta level of things that are happening. And Spedrick fills that as the wizard jester in this castle. He's like, look, here's what's going on. He's like, she's got a quest. He's the hero. He knows that so long as that quest is not complete, you can't have a happy ending. The happy ending doesn't come in the middle because the quest isn't done. He's got to earn that happy ending type thing, which I thought was really funny from it's almost like a dissection of just, storytelling stuff.
It's kind of interesting too, because it kind of makes the castle out as this like almost like purgatory like place where she's not really committing. Yeah. She's kind of like, no, this is good.
This is great. I can die here happy and be done with it.
Yeah. And I don't have to worry or face the Red Bull, which is a big thing that like she kind of doesn't want to do again.
Yep. So having all of this be said, they do end up uncovering that the unicorns are trapped in the water. She turns back into a unicorn and fights the bull, unlike all of the other unicorns, with the prince's help, Prince Lear's help, and she manages to like he gets trampled over off screen. It's one of those like, this is a kids movie. We got to cut the violence part. It's probably hard to draw it out. Like, yeah. So he gets presumably trampled by the bull. And after the bull gets like driven into the water, all of the other unicorns come out of the water and flee away. In doing so, the whole castle crumbles off, and it's just the group on the shore. And she, as the unicorn, she like resurrects the prince and goes on her merry way. You get a like post epilogue credit nonsense thing where you get to see them like living out their happy ending of sorts, where she's a unicorn again and she can go be with the other unicorns. And one of the points that is made earlier is that she, as a unicorn, does not ever feel regret. They feel sorrow, but they don't feel regret. Having gone through this whole journey and having her experiences as a human, she does have no sorrow for the things that have transpired, except for one. She does have one sorrow, one regret, and that is she can no longer like be with her love. because she's a unicorn and not a person. And that's where we kind of go into like the next theme dissection of this movie, and that is like how this weird balance of like change and maybe a allegory for puberty and like existential dread and like what it is to be
Well,
a
I think
human.
some of it is like, like someone maybe you loved in your youth, but as you grew up and became an adult, it just wasn't working out, but you still want it to,
Yeah,
even. Like it's just
yeah,
someone that's like time's just gone too far past or whatever.
yeah, and that's one part for, I would say, the unicorn story in particular is the idea of
Yeah.
like of going from just like the love section and like going through changes that would, that part I think could be very much an allegory for puberty and like falling in and out of love and that kind of thing, where she goes from like the innocence of a unicorn, the purity, because like that's one of the like grander arching ideas of what a unicorn is. It is a symbol of purity, of pure form, whatever. And that's something that she goes from a unicorn into being a human. When she becomes a human, like she's fucking mortified. She's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, like I could feel my body dying around me, kind of thing. And she hates it originally, and as she goes along, she forgets more about like what it was to be a unicorn. She falls in love. She finds this like reason to continue as being a human, but that's not how life works. She ends up going
She
back
has to
to like,
fulfill her calling or
yeah,
responsibility even.
yeah. She like almost grows into an adult. I almost would say, in that she takes the responsibility of, yeah, I'm a unicorn. I gotta save my unicorn bros. um and
Well, at first it's like she doesn't even know where they are. She's like, I've never really seen another unicorn, I guess, as I think about it.
yeah, yeah,
Where'd they all go? Which is
and
funny.
and that's something that, having finished this whole journey, she gets to the end, and again, it's the idea of better to have loved than lost than never have loved at all, I think. And the fact that like change is kind of forced upon her, and she gets to live with that forevermore. She's no longer the same unicorn that she ever was, and
But I
she'll,
love how she still has that one speck of regret, which kind of
yeah,
always makes her like she'll always be a unicorn, but that's still that one little human thing about her
yeah,
that like
that
she
that
never
makes
got
her
over.
non-unicorn now,
Yeah,
compared to
makes
all
her a
the
little
others.
yeah. So
um
she's like not as pure, quote unquote. That's when she
yep,
started, which is
yep.
kind of a cool mark of the character, like
um
evolving.
Similarly, going off of like the existential dread thing, uh it's like scattered around it in little bits and pieces. So rewind back to, you've got the witch's carnival thing. She like has seen the future. She foretells like, oh yeah, like that harpy's gonna kill me. You let it out, I'm gonna die. That's just how it is. But you know what? That harpy will forever remember that I'm the one that caught it and it killed me. It will know. It will be like, it'll be in its memory. That'll be my legacy. I will become immortal because the harpy will have killed me. And when they eventually like let all the beasts out, while everything else turns normal, the harpy is in fact a harpy. It's not like this magic illusion
Yeah,
thing. The
it is
harpy
just a piece.
just straight for the throat. It just goes straight at the witch, and the witch like has this weird smile about it, like in when it's like swooping down at her. So that was one thing where it's like, cool. They like, she she knows that she is going to die in that instance, and she kind of looks forward to it. Like she would
Well,
rather uh
that's her calling. It's her
like,
destiny.
yeah, it's like
It's what it is to be.
she almost is accepting of her own death. Like she will happily be gruesomely murdered by a harpy, knowing that her legacy, like as a creature that has existed and left its mark in the universe, has done its job or whatever. Like that's something where it dips into that kind of existentialism. Same thing goes for like the interaction where you've got the merry band of bandits and the Robin Hood illusions like walking through, where
Shredder, yeah.
Robin Hood is this immortal thing, and these bandits, nope. Like, yeah, sure, they existed. Robin Hood maybe existed, going by this story, but Robin Hood is the immortal thing. Robin Hood is as real as it gets because Robin Hood has this lasting impact. Um, and you fast forward to like that transformation scene where she's a unicorn. She is this immortal creature. She is this everlasting thing and turns into a human, and immediately just all the threads of existentialism just slap onto her where it's just like, oh my god, I'm dying. Like, that I thought was really interesting because in a Disney fairy tale sense, you could get something where it's more like a unicorn turns into a princess. That sounds like a win, and the unicorn is not happy about it.
Yeah,
like, it becomes this existential thing because it's like, oh my god, I was this immortal being,
Eternal thing.
and now I only have like, the 40-50 years or something in medieval times, maybe less, I don't know, it depends on your age. Age is a number that they're not going to open up in a fairy tale. So that was something that was really interesting, and the fact that she eventually goes through this whole endeavor and goes, you know what? I found happiness. I found what I want to do. I'm going to call it here. I've got it. This is it. This is what I want now. I am human. I've settled with it. I'm good. And the hero in this case goes, bro, I've been a human my whole life. This ain't it. Like, you've got a grander calling. You've got this existential mark in the universe that you got to go fulfill. You've got this quest that the wizard describes in a very meta way that you have to go and finish up and do. And you will lose your humanity, but that's the real mark at the end. That was something that was really weird, and it feels like it does this strange balance of like point counterpoint of like existential dread and like acceptance of like your fate.
Well, and she does the opposite of the king, right? She lets go of what she loves the most to save all the rest of the unicorns.
Yeah,
the king was the opposite. He held on to
the king is very possessive of it instead. Yeah, no, there's a lot of weird stuff, and
it is a weirdly heavy movie.
Yeah,
for what it is,
and in a good way. It is something that I think.
Oh, yeah.
It honestly, if it weren't for these like deeper allegories, messages, metaphors, what have you, I don't think this movie would be a cult classic. I think that this was something that would just like fall by the wayside and be completely forgotten about.
Some fun fluff.
Yeah, it's not just fun fluff. I think it's this is what carries this movie. If it didn't have these,
it would just kind of be fun fluff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd argue on the fun thing, but I don't have nostalgia for the movie. I didn't watch it when I was younger. Again,
fluff
the pacing
is just pretty.
The pacing was slow for me, and I think, yeah, I don't know. It elevates it from being a passive like on the TV kiddie cartoon to being something that's got some kind of a lasting endeavor. It's not just a mindless. Yeah, it has staying power. And this movie,
I watched a lot of movies as a kid, but I don't remember them.
Yeah, this movie could be easily forgotten if it didn't have any of that staying power that comes from just the sheer jumping around of themes and stuff. Yeah, it makes you think. Overall, I would say I think you had mentioned like 3 out of 5 stars. I'm in that camp where I'd give it like 6, low 7, something like that if I were to rate it 1 to 10.
Which isn't a bad thing. Like,
no,
don't get freaked out about it.
It's doing what I think it's intending to do. And
yeah, I don't think the movie cares what we have to say on it at some level.
From a
not super interested.
From a like, you're watching this for entertainment purpose, I think that's where this movie suffers. You're watching this for thought-provoking questions and some interesting artistry,
You
that's
gotta
where
at
this
least watch
succeeds.
the intro. You gotta at least watch the intro, man. Like that, just the
Just for the intro
if you
theme.
don't watch anything else, just watch. No, no, like where they're going into the forest and stuff with all the like
Mm,
crazy yeah, like that. Just look at
yeah.
that. Nothing
So
else.
yeah, pretty good. That being said, I think that's all
Oh yeah,
I've got on that.
absolutely. It's a great movie. I love it. It was a childhood classic of mine. I wore out a VHS tape of it. I would, as Jordan said, I would still say 3 out of 5. But it's a fun romp, and if you're just kind of in the, the just the troubles of the day are giving you some blues, I think it's a good way to get out of a funk. Just
Yeah,
kind of
it's even though it
reset for a little
has all
bit.
of this like craziness, deeper questions thing, it is still very much a positive tale, which is nice. Um,
We
so
all need a fairy tale now and again.
yeah. So Connor, where can we check you out?
As always, you can find me at 5 String Connor on YouTube. So many great content options there. You could try and take the crown on Pokemon Showdown, but as
Woo.
always, I still reign unchallenged, undisputed.
Supreme, and not the
Hit me
brand.
up on Steven Bam Cleric. You want to play some KOF or any fighting games? If you're into those, let me know. Always down to play some sets.
Absolutely. And then for me, you can always see me either here, we do narratives and nonsense every Monday, or you can also check me out on Wednesdays. We're playing Kingdom Hearts. We're going to finish Kingdom Hearts
It's a
1
good
and
time.
start Chain of Memories. I'm excited. Or you can also watch me go through the Halo series because it's my first time through. That is on Sundays. And then those two things would be on the channel linked in the doobly doo and at the end for Gillidan FTW, Gillidan for the win. That being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Stay happy and healthy, and have a good one.
As always.